Hi everyone. So yeah, this video is the second of three videos. So I did the first one, was it last week? The start of the week maybe. Talking about what happened, the accident that I had, and I posted that both on TikTok and YouTube. This is the second one. I've already done one for TikTok, so this is just for YouTube. But today I want to talk about the insurance process that I went through, because I hopefully will be able to give you a couple of top tips to make your life easy should you have an accident. Now, I'm not an insurance expert, so this is really just some top tips from my experience that hopefully you can avoid. So you already know about the accident. If you watched the previous video, I hit a deer on a slip road of a dual carriageway, and yeah, the bike was totaled. I was injured, broken collarbone, but I'm healing now. That was over 5 weeks ago. But at the side of the road, I'm thinking, okay, well, now I need the bike recovered. So I wasn't sure who to call. Do I call breakdown service? Do I call my insurance company? But then it was out of hours. It was a Sunday evening. So I called my breakdown and explained to them, look, I'm not sure if this is the right number, but I've had an accident and my bike needs recovered. They asked who I was insured with, and they put me through to the insurance company. So I spoke to somebody at the insurance company, a company that I'm not going to name for obvious reasons. And they said, oh no, you need to speak to another company. So they put me through to another company who then subcontracted the recovery to another company. So it was a little bit of a nightmare. But the first point really there, and the top tip for you, is make sure that you've already got in your phone the number that you need to call should you have an accident and your bike needs recovered. Now, obviously, take into account that this is, banking on the fact that you're well enough to make that call. If you're not, then, I guess the police might recover the vehicle, for example. Excuse me. But yeah, if you are fit and well enough to make the call, then you need to know who to call. So speak to your insurance company and get the right number. Who do I call in the event of an accident and the bike needs recovered, whether it be during working hours or whether that be out of hours. So the bike got recovered by a subcontractor, and the guy told me roughly where it was being taken to, but he said to me, he said, don't worry, your insurance will be in touch tomorrow, you don't need to do anything. So I waited. Monday, no call from the insurance company. Tuesday, no call from the insurance company. Wednesday morning, I called them, and they had no record of the accident at all. And I said, well, that's not right, because I spoke to you. And they said, no, actually, you will have spoken to your broker, not the insurance claims company, which is part of the same umbrella company, but not the same company. And, at this stage, I was like almost at the end of my tether, because now I don't know where the bike is. And actually going back a little bit as well, if your bike is recovered in the event of an accident, providing you're fit and well enough, make sure you know where it's going to get taken to, right? So at least you can track it down if you need to. But the point is, you shouldn't have to, right? So my insurance company said they had no record of it, and they didn't know where the bike was. So I then had to try and find out who the second company was that instructed the recovery. Eventually I found that out, spoke to them. They said, no, we didn't instruct the recovery, your insurance did. But they said it might well be this company. So I got in touch with that company. It's all confusing. And yeah, they said, yeah, we know where the bike is, but we can't give you any information. You need to speak to the recovery company. And I said, well, who the hell is the recovery company? Because now I'm 3 companies deep, and then a subcontractor doing the actual recovery. So I found out who that was, found out where the bike was. I then called my insurance company back and said, right, I know where the bike is. Can I start this claim? And then they said, no, you need to speak to our claims company. So now I'm contacting another company to start the claims process. Absolutely ridiculous. And all whilst trying to deal with, I had a torn muscle in my back, I'd broken my collarbone, I was just, a bit battered and bruised. And you just don't need this stress, right? So the second top tip is, speak to your insurance companies the next chance you get, and find out what the process is in the event of an accident where you have to make a claim. So no, I'm not talking about claiming from someone else's insurance. I'm talking about if you have to claim from your insurance. Find out what that process is, so at least you know. And if there's multiple companies involved, at least you can get an idea, almost a mental map of who deals with which part of this whole process, so that you can sort of have peace of mind right from the very beginning. So the whole process was an absolute nightmare. Now, I then had to claim for my helmet and leathers. So when I spoke to my insurance company, again, they said, no, you need to speak to our additional products team. So I spoke to the additional products team. They then said they would send me an email with a claim form. They didn't. The next day, I contacted them. They said again, they'll send me an email. They didn't. I think, and then it was the weekend. So the following Monday, I phoned them again. I said, look, send me this email so I can do the claim form. Eventually they did. And then when the claim form was attached to the email, it was sent in PDF format. Now, I don't have PDF editing software, so I now have to go and find somebody that's got PDF editing software so that I can actually fill out this bloody claim form. Again, this should be a very user-friendly process, but it wasn't. So my insurance company actually compensated me 2 lots of compensation. First of all, they compensated £125 because I'd complained about this multi-company, loads of phone calls and emails process, when it should really just be one point of contact, right? So they compensated me £125. And then the second lot of compensation of £300 was because during this whole process, I'm on the phone to my insurance company asking a question about the payout. The person on the end of the phone wasn't understanding my question. They were giving me a completely different answer to a completely different question. So a couple of times I said, no, let me start again. Let me explain my question. But then I actually heard the woman whisper, I don't give a shit, down the phone. Now, whether she was talking to someone else, I don't know. Whether she just had a bad day, I don't know. Whether she was stressed, I don't know. But the point is, that shouldn't happen, right? So I spoke to a senior manager about that, got the call recorded and listened to by the senior manager. And they agreed that I was polite and I was, professional, and I wasn't out of order at all. I wasn't one of those demanding customers. And they agreed that the conduct of the person I was speaking to was completely unprofessional. So they compensated me with another £300, which is fair enough, right? Because the extra £425 just helped a little bit, because the expense of having to claim and buy new leathers and all the rest of it. So absolute bloody nightmare. Fourth Dimension was the company that was assessing the bike. They were really good. Now, I've heard some really bad stories about Fourth Dimension, the accident management company, who deal with a lot of bikes. And to be honest, it was fine. They got the bike. They were a little bit slow in their communications, but they were good, and they gave me a really good valuation. The next tip that I'll give you folks is, if you do have to make a claim for your bike, if it is written off, do a bit of research and find out what a comparative value is for your type of bike, your age, your rough mileage, etc. Because it will help you to judge whether or not the offer of payout that they give you is reasonable or not. But it was. They gave me a reasonable payout. So in the end, it was all sorted, but it took 3, nearly 4 weeks to get it all sorted. And then on the tail end of that, I'm in the process of trying to find and buy another bike as well, and trying to get insurance quotes on a new bike. Not new bike, but new bike to me, straight after an accident. That was that was a bit of a nightmare. So the bike reveal will be done this week on Friday, and some of you might be surprised actually. So I have got a competition on TikTok to win these grips, if you can guess the bike. Loads of people have guessed on TikTok so far. Nobody's got it right yet. So if you can guess what bike I've got, then follow me on TikTok, look at one of my videos mentioning it, comment on the video, and then you'll be entered into the prize draw. So that is a very quick version, hopefully, of what happened and the process that I've gone through with the insurance company, with the insurance claim. But to summarise those top tips, find out what number you need to call in the event of an accident if your bike needs recovered, and store it in your phone should you need it, just like you do with your breakdown number. Speak to your insurance company and find out what is the claims process and who is the right person to talk to in the first instance. And are there any other companies that would get involved in that claims process? Because at least you have an idea of what that might be should it happen, and I hope it never does happen to you. And yeah, remember that all calls are recorded. So if you feel as though you're not getting a very good customer service, then request copies of the calls. It might take a little while to get them. It took me about a week or two to get a copy of the call. But it's worth it. And remember, remain polite and professional so that if they make any mistakes, it's on them. But yeah, the insurance industry are a nightmare. We all know that, right? All bikers know that the insurance industry is a nightmare. And it did affect my next bike choice, which again will all be revealed on Friday. So yeah, hopefully that helps. I know I'm sort of rattling through all that quite quickly, but if anybody has any questions about what I went through, just drop me a message and I'll do my best to answer. But as always, folks, thank you for following. If you don't already subscribe to my channel. Follow me on TikTok as well. Over the winter period, when I'm doing less riding, TikTok will be busier than YouTube. When I get back to doing some proper riding early next season, then my YouTube videos, my moto vlogs will pick up again. But I will do some over the winter as and when it's dry, because I am a fair weather biker. But yeah, so thanks for listening, folks, and I hope you never have to go through what I've had to go through.